I have a question for you that I thought of while I was driving cross country, and I think it involves like maybe physics or radiation or something. Can I ask you this?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah.
No, this is important. I want to know. All right. So I'm driving down the interstate.
To be clear, I'm supposed to answer for all of physics, right?
Yeah, just be physics.
Okay,
right
cool.
now.
Got it. Yeah, no problem.
Crap, dude. You make it so complicated.
I know, right? Sorry.
You're physics. I'm me. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving down the interstate in rural Wyoming, and we're going real fast because the speed limit's 80 out here, so it is basically 90. And I'm doing one of those half a mile an hour cruise control passes of another vehicle. You know the kind?
I hate them. Yeah.
Sorry.
I do?
I mean, I don't know. It felt fine. There were no other cars out there. So as I'm passing this vehicle, I notice it's very weird. It's big. It's boxy. It looks kind of like a garbage truck, but it's definitely not a garbage truck. And it seems like it's all armored up, but it doesn't look military. And I get to the side and I discover that it has the name of some fancy futuristic sounding energy company on it. I don't remember what it was. Okay. Can you picture this?
Okay. I'm picturing a stainless steel DeLorean tornado chasing vehicle is what I'm picturing. But go ahead.
Okay, I would have liked that better. This was not that.
Okay.
This looked like a mysterious sci-fi covert government agency. We're trying to hide something kind of vehicle.
So a McDonald's semi-truck with a trailer on it that says McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
No.
I'm pretty sure that's
not
Close
at all.
Encounters of the Third Kind says that's how they transport stuff that they really want to keep
Okay,
secret.
well, maybe. And
okay.
I was in the neighborhood of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay.
I was by Devil's Tower. All right.
Okay.
So I'm driving past the thing. It says energy on it. I'm like, well, why would you need a vehicle like that for energy? What's in there? And then, everybody's kind of taking a nap or whatever while I'm driving in my family. I get to thinking, what if they got something nuclear in there?
Ooh.
How do they move that stuff? Do you have just a vehicle that moves nuclear stuff down the highway? I don't know. I mean, you have to move it somehow. What do those vehicles look like? Maybe this is one of those vehicles. Then I got to thinking, well, I've got my whole family in the vehicle. I wouldn't want them to get, I wouldn't want them to get nucleared. So I should position my vehicle in a way that's smart relative to the potentially nuclear vehicle that's no doubt just radiating nuclear in all directions.
You don't want to get nucleated.
No, absolutely not.
It's a different word, but it's funny. Yeah, go ahead.
So then I got to thinking, well, how would I position my vehicle in this physical situation to avoid getting nucleared? And then I thought, how fast does radiation travel?
Oh, man.
How does it emanate? So here's my actual question. Where would one want to position their vehicle in such a situation like that? And really what my actual question is how fast does radiation move? How is it propelled? Which way does it go? If you're driving forward at 80 miles an hour, does it blow back like a fart and it's just all quickly behind you because you're going against air and it stays back there? Or if the radiation is in the truck, does it maintain its momentum the same way like if you're playing catch in the back of a vehicle and everything's otherwise steady, the ball just goes back and forth more or less like normal, assuming the vehicle's moving in a straight line. How does the radiation work?
I'm guessing within arm's length of where you are right now, you being a pastor and a humanities guy, I'm guessing there's a book close to you right now called like the Holy Bible or something like that.
Let me see if I can find one. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one of those. What do you need to know?
Well, I currently, within arm's reach, I have a book called Heat Transfer and Fluid Flow in Nuclear Systems. It was like I had my coffee.
Well, we are quite the pair, aren't we?
I was sitting there like, oh, Matt's saying a funny thing. Ha, 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 this is funny. And then slowly, as the seriousness of your question dawned on me, like, I don't really know this. And then, so my smile went to kind of not a frown, but like a pontificating kind of look. And then I was like, oh, look, there's that book. I'll tell you the story of how I got this book. It's pretty interesting. Let me see. I don't know that I know the answer to your question, which is fine.
We'll have it before we're done. What's the book called again?
Heat Transfer and Fluid Flow in Nuclear Systems, edited by Henry Fenech. Fenech? F-E-N-E-C-H? Fenech? I don't know.
Of course you have that book. Great. Okay.
So, I started doing a series on Smarter Every Day, the YouTube channel I do, about nuclear power. The reason I did that is because I didn't know about nuclear power. And I really wanted to understand it, but I wanted to understand it for myself. Not like, hey, the politicians say that nuclear power is bad, Germany. Or, hey, the politicians say nuclear power is good. I wanted to actually know the engineering and the physics behind it. So I decided to start researching it. I actually applied for a grant with the Department of Energy so that I gave them this pitch, and I was like, I would like to come to all these Department of Energy labs, and I would like to do XYZ at this lab and XYZ at this lab. And they just had no framework for what I was asking them to do. They were like, no, we can't do that.
What do you mean they had no framework? They couldn't understand what a video about that would be like or why you would be interested?
The problem with Smarter Every Day is that I'm just a dude in a ball cap, right? But also the benefit of Smarter Every Day is I'm just a dude in a ball cap. And so people don't really have infrastructure or bureaucratic infrastructure set up when you go to them and be like, hey, I would like to do a video that would tell a lot of people about this thing that you care about.
Yes, I run into that problem from time to time myself.
Yeah. And so I applied for an NSF grant one time, a National Science Foundation grant. And I was like, hey, I know you guys do a lot of outreach. Can I please get a grant so that I could go explore? And I had some things I wanted to do. And they were like, no, you have to be an institution. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, we got to be like a university or a 501c3 or a for-profit business. I was like, well, I mean, technically Smarter Every Day is a business, but I just want to talk about this thing. And I know you're giving a bajillion dollars out to people to talk about stuff. Can I have a few dollars and talk about the thing? They're like, I'm sorry, you just don't have basically I didn't have the administration in place. Have you watched or read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? You ever read that book?
I have. It's been a while. I read it when I was a kid.
So there's this one alien race. I don't know what their names are. I forget all the details, but I remember the big themes. And one of the things about this particular alien race is they were just in the game for bureaucracy. There were beings that would be born into this civilization, and they would be the equivalent of the Department of Motor Vehicles. So, you go and you get your tag or your new license renewal or whatever. And so you end up in this line and you're like, why am I waiting so long to do this simple task? Well, this alien race had these people that they would be born and oh, your job is to operate this desk. And that person, they were born and their job is to wait in this line. And what are we doing? I don't know. We have to do this paperwork. It's very important. It kind of felt like that when I tried to approach the system and I was like, hey, can I please have money to do this thing that I'm doing? And they're like, no, we don't really. And finally I was like, well, I'm not going to go get some kind of, I'm not going to go team up with some university or something in order to pretend like I have all this bureaucratic infrastructure. I'm just going to go make the video. I'm not going to waste my time with that. So that's when I started leaning in on Patreon on Smarter Every Day and leaning in on, hey, I'm only going to work with these ads that I like to, these brands that I like to work with. And so often I'll go to a place and I will just make a video about the thing and then I'll have a different sponsor. And that's part of why I do that. So anyway, bureaucratically, I've tried to do this stuff for nuclear power, funded by nuclear power, and I realized that wasn't going to work. And so finally I was like, well, forget this. I'm just going to make videos about nuclear power because I'm interested in it.
So the nuclear power people don't want you to make videos about nuclear power that might potentially make nuclear power look good?
It's not that. It's that they didn't know how to do it. I'm talking about Department of Energy, DOE.
There's not a button for that kind of weakness?
It was just I was asking
You're trying to be nice to them because you still want to work with them.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening right now.
Okay.
I just didn't know.
Okay. I understand. So you'll be real mean to a cashier at the hotel who can't check you in, can't make a reservation unless you have a reservation, but the Department of Energy, you got to take it easy on them.
Oh, yeah, I'm super mean, dude. Super mean. So, yeah, I'm just calling it for what it is. Like, they didn't have systems in place to do what I was looking to do. Smarter every day is a weird thing.
It is. And if somebody gets it, they get it. And if they don't, it is very threatening.
Yes.
It feels like there's not really accountability. Like, so we just open up our treasure room and put our best people on camera, and then we hope you do something good with that.
Right.
I get why people would freak out. I've been denied access to really cool churches, really cool expressions of Christianity for exactly that kind of thinking.
Which makes sense. It's
suspicion.
It's logical. There's some really smart people at Idaho National Labs, a couple people that work in their public affairs. Joel and Sarah are their names. And they're just smart. And they're like, hey, will you come, do you want to come look at INL? And that was like on the list that I approached DOE about. And I was like, yeah, I would love to do that. I forget, we signed some kind of little agreement. I don't remember. I'll have to go dig that up and reread it and all that kind of stuff. But basically, I didn't sign away my ability to tell the truth. I said, I'm not going to, there's certain things security-wise you can't publish. We crossed the T's and dotted the I's on all that stuff, but they said, yeah, just come tell the story you want to tell. I was like, man, that's amazing. And so I did that. I told the story of the world's first nuclear power plant. It's called EBR-1, Experimental Breeder Reactor 1. And then...
what did you call that video?
I don't remember. Don't remember.
Isn't it funny? Because they changed like 12 times.
Yeah.
During the early days when you're trying to trick the stupid algorithm into showing people who want to see the video they want to see.
That's exactly how the game works, and I hate every bit of that. It's called, if you watch this video, you will understand nuclear power. And the title is...
It's that one.
Yeah.
I helped with that title.
Yeah. And the title is, I Explore the World's First Nuclear Power Plant. And yeah.
Cool.
It's pretty cool.
Great. Yes. Got it. Okay. I know the one we're talking about then.
Yeah.
Okay. Roger that. So that's Zach and Sarah. No, that's...
Joel and Sarah got me access.
I put it in my head. It's a Ben Folds song. Joel and Sarah. There we go. Joel and Sarah. Got it.
Yeah. They gave me access
and they're
to that.
at Idaho National
Lab.
Something.
Yep.
Lab. And it worked. And they could see the possibility in this that other people couldn't see. And what did you learn there?
I learned about how neutrons work.
What's a neutron?
A neutron is, so you've got an atom, which is, I've been told, one of the most basic building blocks of matter. But it's weird because there's subatomic particles, which fundamentally seems like they're smaller things. So it's a subatomic particle with neutral charge. And so typically you have protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons are positively charged, electrons are negatively charged, and neutrons are neutral.
All right. So I remember all of my physics and all of that other business. I remember how important those orbits of the protons are, and having the right, I think the word was valence that they taught me in high school. You got little gaps, you have openings. You can have so many per orbit, per ring, and that is part of the building blocks of stuff that lets things stick together so that atoms can partner up to be buddies and make things that are cooler than just what they are as an element. But I don't remember why there would need to be neutrons, because it seems like they don't do anything, because you got a positive and you got a negative. I get that, but I don't understand why you would need a neutral thing in there.
I don't either. Yeah, you've got these electron shells, the SPDF stuff, you remember, and certain shells can have a certain number of electrons in there. But I'm with you. I don't really
Wait, so electrons are in the rings. Electrons are in the rings?
Yes.
Protons are in the...
nucleus.
They're in the nucleus, and the neutrons are in the nucleus.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because of valence electrons. All right, this is like 10th grade for me, but it's there. So we don't know why neutrons exist, or you don't know off the top of your head why they exist? Is this a mystery of the universe?
I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know if they're like a filler, like a gap maker that keeps protons
Oh.
away from each other. I don't know. I have no idea.
That's a better theory than my no guess. So I remember from maybe sci-fi or comic books the idea of a neutron bomb. Is that sci-fi or is that a thing?
That's a thing. Yeah.
So somebody knows how it works.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting. And so we could go really, really deep into this because I've learned a lot recently, but I'm not an expert at all. I'm just learning.
Well, I just don't want to get radiation poisoning for my family from the garbage truck thing on the interstate by Devil's Tower.
That's great.
So if we solve only that, I'm good with today.
Well, okay. So I learned about the world's first nuclear power plant.
All right.
So we started there at Idaho National Labs. I've got this whole series I'm working on right now. And the follow, I was like, man, where we really need to start the series is the world's first nuclear power plant. And then after that, I want to go into a nuclear plant, like a today nuclear plant.
Which you did.
I did that, but I started getting ready to make the video on going into the today nuclear power plant. And I was like, whoa, they just made me take like 8 hours of training in order to do this. So it seems like before I go into the today nuclear power plant, I should kind of tell people about that training. And so that's what the next video I made was about radiation safety. And
what's that one called?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's a video called...
Isn't it funny that we don't know the names of any of our videos?
I went to a nuclear power plant and it changed how I think about radiation. That's the name of the video.
Great.
Yep.
That's the one the algorithm liked.
Yeah, exactly. It's episode 309 on Smarter Every Day. I just number the episodes, and so whatever the title is going to be. But in that video, I learned about 4 major types of ionizing radiation.
And what happens when you ionize something? That means you are...
I don't have a succinct way of answering that because I'm a mechanical engineer, man, a mechanical and air guy. So, like, I'm sure a physicist, if we were to ask somebody right now, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it means this." I think ionization means it changes the nature of the atom. Like, I know an ion is when I want to say you knock off some of those electrons and you change the structure of the atom, and it changes the count. And so you'll have an atom
so it just
that
means
has a
it has a
positive charge or a
charge.
negative charge. Yes.
Okay, so just one way or the other, though. Either one is an ion.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay. So if you ionize something, you are
changing the
giving
atoms.
it a charge, I guess.
That's what I think it is. That's what I think. The title of this podcast is No Dumb Questions, and I'm feeling pretty dumb right now.
You're doing better than me.
Whatever, man. We're learning. So there's 4 types of ionizing radiation, and this is what I learned. What it was so cool is before I could go into that nuclear power plant, they were like, "Hey, we need you to understand all this physics in like common everyday speak." And so they taught me the types of radiation. They taught me what those different types of radiation would do to me, how to shield from each of those types of radiation. They taught me all that stuff, which was really, and they were like, "Oh, by the way, this is how the reactor works. And this is why we're doing this. And this is how contamination works, which is different than radiation." And they explained all this stuff to me. It was fantastic training. And this is at Browns Ferry Nuclear Power Plant, which is just down the road here in Athens, Alabama.
So how close to the reactor did you get after you learned all that stuff?
Dude, right on top of it. Like with it open.
So they just give you a little helmet or something? I mean, what do you...
Yeah.
Like a blanket?
I mean, that's the video. I'm just going to let that be what it is.
Okay.
It's flipping awesome. Like, imagine taking the top off of a reactor and just being there on top. Like, if I were to jump in the water, I would be in the reactor pool. That's where I went. It was incredible. When I was over the pool,
Dang.
Oh, dude, it was so cool. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my entire life.
There were no fish in there?
No, you're not allowed to fish. No, not in the
Okay.
reactor pool. I know this might surprise you, but there were not fish in that reactor pool.
You didn't see any? Okay.
No, none.
That
But
you saw.
that I saw, yeah. But what was really, really cool is it was during a refueling outage. So they were taking old fuel out and putting new fuel in. And so this specific type of reactor...
Wait, did you see the fuel? I'm sorry. I know I keep derailing you, but I'm excited. Did you see the fuel?
Yes. Yes.
What did it look like?
Long rods, long square prismatic rods.
Longer than a man?
Yeah. Like, I don't know, 14 foot
Well,
long.
some
or
men
something.
are longer than others.
Yeah.
Sure.
Here,
14 foot.
let's see. Let me just read this to you. Fuel rods consist of uranium oxide pellets in a zircaloy 2 cladding tube. The tubes are typically 0.483 inches outer diameter and 160 and a quarter inches long. The pellets are stacked.
Wait, so they're like half an inch thick is it?
That's the pellets.
Oh, you said diameter.
Yeah. So there's these tubes, these round tubes that are put into it's like a square rod that's really, really long. And the rod is 4.07 meters long, or 160 and a quarter inch. So let me just do some math real quick. Let me pull up the old calculator.
That was a pretty good guess on that length. Nice job.
What is 160.25 divided by 12? Yeah, 13.35 feet.
Very impressed. Nice eyeballing.
With the top part of the tube available as a fission gas plenum, a bundle will contain rods with different U-235 enrichments to adjust to the local power peaking. So anyway, I'm reading from a book.
U-235. So these are uranium rods.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So what's so cool is I got on top of this reactor and I looked down into it and I started asking questions, and I purposefully kept myself ignorant up until and the way I did that is I'm a very curious person.
How I do it too.
I'm super curious like you are.
I'm not lazy, dude. I'm strategically remaining ignorant about things in life.
You know exactly what I mean. You know exactly what I mean. You get one chance.
I do.
One chance to unwrap
Yes.
the present, and I decided not to ask all the questions I wanted to ask until I was physically there, and it just lets me be like a little boy with the camera on.
Yes. And I would like to explain to the third chair just a little bit about what you're talking about so you don't have to say it. But if you go and learn all the stuff and then you're like, great, now I learned it all. Let's turn on the camera and fake it again. Everyone can tell. It feels dumb and stilted and like you are the knower of things, even though you're pretending not to be the knower of things. And the way that ruins it for the audience in a video is they might not be able to tell you why it sucks, but deep down their brain knows this feels fake and forced and like I'm being given a little lecture and I'm being patronized because the people on screen are all acting and pretending to be teaching and learning in real time. I've seen you so many times plug your ears when people start to tell you something that needs to be explained with the camera on and be like, don't tell me that yet. Don't tell me that yet. And the reason is because you want to learn it and react to it in real time and not have to act, because you are serving as the learning surrogate for the people who will watch it later. And it just needs to be real and not acting so that you and the person watching can learn about it at the same time. And that way it's fun. It's like you all unwrapped the present together, as opposed to you already being super smart. The other person's already super smart. You both know everything, but you're going to go through a performative dance to make it feel like the person watching the video learned. And a huge part of why your thing is awesome is because of all those times where you stick your fingers in your ears and yell so that people won't tell you the thing until the camera's on, because you're trying to be empathetic. You're trying to make it fun for the people who you're going to bring along in terms of the video, or at least that is my take.
That well said. There's risk that comes along with that, and that risk is
What's the risk?
the risk is, well, if we're gonna do it live, that means I have to understand it to a point where I can ask an intelligent question. And if I don't understand it, there's no faking it. There's like, yeah, he really doesn't get it right now. You know what I mean?
Have you ever been caught with your pants down big time on that?
I keep my pants up all the time.
That is not true.
What? I was just reacting to your expression. When you say caught with my pants down, meaning like I don't understand it in the moment?
Yeah, have you ever been trying to do the conversations the way you do the conversations like we were just talking about, and you find yourself in a spot where you didn't know enough about the subject matter to ask the next obvious question? Just flat-footed?
I guess yeah. I don't know. I don't think about it at that level. I'm just real in the moment. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things I don't know. And I ask, I mean, sometimes if I kind of know the direction we're going, I'll throw the person I'm talking to a softball. But a lot of times I don't know the answer to the question when I ask it.
And to me, it seems like you know what to do very, very well when you don't know what's next. I think you handle that really well. I've sat in interviews with people who aren't as comfortable with that, but I've been caught flat-footed. I was talking with a rock star Hebrew scholar, and he was explaining a translation issue that one Bible translation team had to work out. And it's a legitimate conundrum. It's a hard one, right? Well, theoretically, you take Hebrew in seminary, but I don't remember any of it. Like, I don't remember any of it. That was a long time ago. I have no idea what I'm doing. And he knows where I went to seminary and thinks highly of it. And so we got the camera rolling, and he writes up a Hebrew name on the whiteboard, like with everything rolling, and all these people are in the room because it's kind of a big deal to be filming this. And he's like, "There, what does that say?" And I was like, I don't. He's like, "Well, you went to such and such university. What does it say?" Like, dude, I don't know what that says. And he's like, "Well, sound it out." "I don't know what those letters are. I don't remember anything. Why are you doing this to me? You're ruining everything."
Yeah.
And he muttered something on camera, like, "What are they teaching over there now?"
Did he
"Well,
really?
It means this." And I was like, "Oh, crap. I just ruined my alma mater, and now it's closing." So that probably was my fault after all. But that's the worst, just caught flat-footed I've ever been. But usually what you are talking about and how you are coming at it is the better deal, and it works better. And guess what? I just didn't put that in the final edit of my video because of dignity.
That's pretty funny. Well, I mean, if he said it in that way, I can see cutting it out. But I think it's important to model. How do I say this? One of my simultaneously least favorite comments and also favorite comments I get on Smarter Everyday videos is, "I can't believe you didn't know that blah, 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 blah." And I just think to myself, wow, you know what? The fact that I didn't have all knowledge right there at my disposal, you know what? Maybe I am a fool and I should just hang it up, and I just realized that's a person that don't understand. The Alabama came out there for a second. That's a person that doesn't understand the exercise, and the exercise is, I don't know this stuff, and I'm learning. Like I'm learning on the fly, real time.
Yeah, and your videos are meant for you to learn things.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Like I don't think you're just coming up with clever ways to tell us things you already know, but we don't.
No.
It seems like you have learned stuff from doing your job.
Oh, dude, yeah, I love it, man. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love operating in that place, right at the boundary of my own personal knowledge and understanding. It's like exploring the forest when you were a kid and you grew up near the wilds or wherever it was, and you would go, or if it was like the city and like it's like one block over from where you've been before. Like, I'm going to explore this new place.
I am the spearman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you go forward and then you push the spear forward into the unknown. Yeah, it's great. I think it's fun. And so what was so cool about the nuclear power plant thing is someone at Browns Ferry I tried to get into Browns Ferry a long time ago, and they said no.
That's down in your neck of the woods, right? Browns Ferry is the big plant a couple hours from you.
Nuclear power plant, it's like 35 minutes from me. It's in Athens. It's very, very close, yeah.
Who's the Brown in Browns Ferry?
So there's the Tennessee River, and there was a ferry back in the day before bridges were across the river there. There was Rhodes Ferry, Browns Ferry. These are people that had literal ferries across the river. And if you wanted to cross the river, you'd go down to Browns Ferry, and he'll get you across. That's kind of how that worked. Yeah, there was some guy named Brown.
So kept the name. That's cool.
Yeah, pretty neat. Anyway, I was trying to get into Browns Ferry years ago. Got a good buddy that works there, and I couldn't for whatever reason. And then after I made the first video of the series that Joel and Sarah helped me make, somebody at Browns Ferry reached out, a guy named Bill. He's like, "Hey, man, you want to come here?" I was like, "Yes." So I went into Browns Ferry, and I learned so much. I made a video about alpha, beta, gamma, neutron radiation, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I learned how the reactor worked, and that's the video that George and I are working on now. We're working on a video about that experience, which was amazing. there were a lot of things I didn't understand about the reactor. I was like, okay, I saw it with my eyes. I videoed it. I understand a lot more than I did, but there's still some equations and stuff I don't get. Like, I don't understand why you put the new fuel in the center and the more spent fuel out towards the edges of the reactor. I don't even understand how you control the reaction. There was so much I didn't understand. And then some guy sent me a book, Heat Transfer and Fluid Flow in Nuclear Systems. And I don't think the guy even knew. Well, let me just read the first line of the letter that came with the book. Is that cool? Does that work for you?
Yeah, please.
Hello, Destin. My name is Alex, and my grandfather wrote the book enclosed within this package. It would mean the world to me if you would sign my grandfather's textbook and send it back to me. I would love having my two most influential engineers and scholars together on my bookcase. So at this point, I turned to the book, and I was like, what is this book? It's a hardback book. It seems to be bound with like canvas on the outside. It's got the letters on the front of the book are in this coppery gold leaf. It's reasonably thick. It looks like a hybrid between a textbook and a not textbook. It's about 580 pages.
What color is it?
It's canvas color, like a tan kind of color. It's about 580 pages. And I'm just looking at it. I was like, what is this? And I'm just kind of like, open it up, look on the inside. When is this thing written? And I look over here. When is it written? I forgot what it says here. When is it written? It's 1981, the year I was born. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then I flip around and I notice there's pictures. And I'm like, oh, I like pictures. Let's see, what are these pictures? And I looked at it and I was like, that looks like exactly what I saw at Browns Ferry. Weird. And I look at the thing and I was like, that is the exact reactor I saw at Browns Ferry. What is going on here? It's got a cutaway of the reactor, and I was like, well, the one at Browns Ferry was made by, I think, General Electric, if I'm not, and I read, it says, I'm reading from the book now, a typical 1,220 megawatt BWR 6-core consists of 748 fuel assemblies. I was like, wait a second, that's 1.2 megawatts, the same number of fuel assemblies, 177 control rods. Wait, this is the reactor that I just saw. At this moment, I just kind of like, my heart rate goes up. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's like God dropped this in my lap because there was so much I did not understand about this reactor. And so I'm going back to the letter now. You know, after I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is special. And so I start reading this thing, and he explains a lot about his grandfather. Let's see, I'll just read from it. At age 29, he was awarded a Fulbright Fellowship to come and study at MIT, where he would go on to get his full Master's of Science and doctorate in nuclear engineering, acquiring over 70 publications during his career focused about heat transfer, fluid flow, system design, safety, heat convection, and reactor physics and fuel performance. He was an associate professor at MIT's Department of Nuclear Engineering before moving on to UC Santa Barbara to start up and lead their nuclear engineering program. It says he died he worked at the Brookhaven National Laboratory, and he died in 2001. And then there's just a lot of really nice things in this letter. And Alex included some pictures. It looks like Alex is from Utah. Included some pictures. And then I opened up and I was like, okay, I got to read the chapter on the boiling water reactor system. And I'm talking a lot, Matt. Do you want to say anything right now? I realize I'm just word vomiting on you. This feels rude. I'm sorry.
No, here's what happens to our brains. We have conversation brain, but then we have, I'm looking at something right now. We have perusing brain.
Yeah.
And I was kind of enjoying listening to you go into perusing brain, and I was not going to interrupt it until you came out of it yourself.
Yeah.
Because you get good things out of perusing brain. I'm looking at something, I'm engaging with this in real time. It has my brain. I know you're still physically here, but I'm kind of in conversation with this artifact in front of me. And I rather enjoyed hearing you just go down the rabbit hole. So no, I'm good and very attentive. And if I'm understanding correctly, by complete fluke, somebody from Browns Ferry that you'd been trying to get into reached out after forever of trying to get in there, and then you were able to get in there.
Yes.
By complete fluke, somebody who likes your videos sent you a book from his grandfather, who literally wrote the book on the type of reactor you just saw. And by complete fluke, you happened to come across that in the book as you were thumbing through it and connect the dots on all of this stuff. And then by complete fluke, I drove by that vehicle on the interstate by Devil's Tower and wanted to know if my family was going to get radiated, and asked you to explain to me how all of this nuclear stuff works and how radiation moves. And it's all confluencing into the perfect place where I'm going to be able to protect my family from mobile radiation labs in the future. That's where I've got a pin in the conversation right now. How am I doing?
Yeah, I think that feels good to me. So
okay, sweet.
I'm flipping through this book, and I'm seeing incredibly long equations that I don't pretend to understand. I'm not a nuclear engineer, but I'm seeing other things. I'm like, I don't know that equation, but it looks a lot like this other thing that I know about. Basically, this looks like Bernoulli's momentum equation for fluid flow. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, I recognize that. I'm not intimidated by that math. I see a gradient. I see partial derivatives. I see, yeah, I could do that if I needed to, but I don't need to because there's pictures here. And I flip over and I look at the pictures, and I'm like, oh, whoa, that's how it works. And what I learned is that you asked me about how fast radiation moves. That is a very interesting question. So we have alpha, beta, gamma, neutron radiation. Those are the 4 types of ionizing radiation that I'm familiar with. I'm positive there's more. There's got to be more. But that's what I'm familiar with. So, to answer your question, alpha radiation is a particle. And so it like sits places. Beta radiation is similar. It can actually fly. Like it's an actual particle, and it can be stopped by different things. And but
like concrete, lead?
Yeah, so alpha radiation can be stopped by paper. So if you're on the interstate and there's an alpha emitter in that vehicle, then as long as you're driving in a paper or more container, then you're going to be able to protect your family.
Oh, well, I was.
That's great. They were safe.
That's great. I feel bad for all those bikers on their way to Sturgis.
I know, right? Well, I mean,
but I was inside a container.
As long as they were wearing those leather chaps, I think they'll be okay.
They're not. They are not, dude. The safety is not their big focus.
Not really into that.
The Sturgis bikers.
But they do wear
it's freedom.
They do wear goggles, right? They do wear glasses or goggles for wind.
Some of them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Then
they wear remarkable attire.
Then I think they would be safe from beta radiation, because beta radiation can penetrate paper, but it's stopped by thicker things like plastic. Plastic would stop beta radiation.
Okay, so plastic or above for a vehicle is going to get it done. So most Hondas would block beta radiation.
Not all of them, but most. But there's different.
Okay, good.
There's different things, and I'm not gonna speculate here because or I'm not gonna try to regurgitate what I've been told. Like there's this thing when people go through nuclear training, they say, all right, you got 3 different types of radiation. You have to eat one. You have to I forget what they say. If you had to eat one, which one would it be? And if you had to sit on one, what would it be? And they have all these things, and different types of radiation behave differently, and so there's different answers. We got alpha can be stopped by paper. Beta can be stopped by something a little thicker like plastic. Gamma is just going to go right through you. Gamma is pretty high energy. It's like X-rays.
That's the one that made the Hulk.
Gamma radiation?
Isn't that what they always say? That he got exposed to gamma radiation? I mean, when was the Hulk created?
I don't know.
But the mid 20th century, when people were just starting to figure out this language, and that probably sounded real sci-fi-ish. But gamma radiation, that must have been the scary one. So that's what made the Hulk, I think.
Yeah, but it's like you're probably being exposed to gamma radiation right now.
Well, I hate it.
It's the worst. So gamma radiation, I think of it like a wave. I think of it like a form of light. I assume that means it's going at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles a second. I assume that, but I know light changes depending on what medium it's flying through. And so I know that different materials with light are opaque or transparent, right? The same works with gamma radiation. You can stop gamma radiation with like concrete or lead. If it was a gamma source in that vehicle, I'm sorry, Matt, but you probably were exposed. I don't know if you're feeling a little
So maybe
tingly.
the Hulk.
Yeah, maybe the Hulk.
Yeah, angry.
Yeah. The thing about that is the gamma radiation also, just like light, the closer you get, the brighter it gets. There's this thing called the, oh gosh, what's it called? It's the art of the fourth term. So the closer you get, what's it called? I've forgotten it. I used to use it with radar. Basically, the closer you get to a thing, if you get twice as close, the power goes up by 4. Am I saying that right? I forget. I want to say it's the R squared law. I got to look this up real quick.
I think it might be the common sense that everybody knows just from being alive law.
Yeah, but gosh, I have to look. Tina, give me a 10-second jingle so I can look this up. It's the inverse square law. Man, I feel stupid. For some reason, I kept wanting to call it the R squared law, but it's the inverse square law. So basically, the way it works is the intensity is proportional to 1 over the square of the distance, is kind of how that works. Anyway, gamma, what you would want to do there in Wyoming is you would want to get going really, really fast. And you would want, at your point of closest approach to that vehicle, that's when you're getting the most radiation. And so you would want to just preferably if you could drive the speed of light by it.
No, I can't. My truck
won't do
has
that.
a governor at 114. Yeah.
That would reduce the exposure to your family the most from gamma radiation.
Okay. So I could wait till we have like a really steep hill.
Yeah.
Get it right at 114, which I do not recommend. That is way too fast. But in this case, lesser of two evils. I'm trying to avoid turning my whole family into green rage monsters. And then maybe get it on a hill where I get the assist from gravity and I can bump it up a little over 114. That'd be my best play.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So the gamma radiation, or any of this radiation, is it like a fart trail behind this truck that disseminates later, or is it constantly radiating in real space and dissipating in real space?
The fart trail, you're thinking about contamination. You're not thinking about radiation. Radiation is a thing that's happening. Contamination is a thing
that can cause contamination, right?
Yes, it can cause contamination.
Which one is the poop in your contamination and radiation video?
So particles that emit radiation, that is contamination. And if you step on them, you can take them with you different places. You are contaminated at that point.
And then do the contaminated particles also radiate at some level?
Yes, they do. They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But nowhere near to the degree that the initial, like that the fuel cell is radiating. And we're talking about orders of magnitude greater radiation or expulsion. I mean, it's not really expulsion, right? Radiation isn't propulsion inherently. It's transfer.
There's another type of radiation we have to talk about.
Okay.
And that's neutron radiation.
Well, I thought we didn't even know what those were.
You got alpha, beta, gamma, and neutron. And this is why your question's so interesting. You said, how fast is radiation? There's 2 types. Well, there's a lot of different types of neutron radiation, but like the 2 that nuclear power plant people talk about a lot are fast neutrons and thermal neutrons. That's what they call it. Fast neutrons are, as you would expect, fast. They moved very, very quickly, like around 20,000 kilometers a second. They're really, really fast. Okay?
All right.
The way these things happen is when you have a uranium atom sitting there, like let's say U-235, for example. It's kind of like a mousetrap is the way I explain it. And so it's got 3 neutrons that it kind of isn't happy having. At any moment in time, if you come up and you poke that thing the right way, it's going to want to throw those other neutrons off. Okay?
So when it jettisons those neutrons, is there actual momentum? Is there energy transfer and speed occurring?
Yeah. They're flying off. Very fast.
Does this destroy the nucleus or cause decay in the uranium?
Exactly. Yes, it does. It breaks that big uranium atom. Now, uranium is a big atom, right? It breaks it into smaller parts. It also gives off a lot of heat. There's heat that's dissipated when this happens. It will turn it into two smaller atoms. And sometimes there's other weird stuff that kicks off, like electrons or positrons, weird stuff, beta radiation. But, we talked about alpha and beta. They're particles. Like alpha is it's kind of like a helium atom, kind of.
Okay.
It's just 2 electrons and 2 neutrons. That's what alpha
cute.
radiation is. But these fast neutrons, it's just like a neutron, just like boing! It just like springs off of that thing, and it just shoots really, really fast away. Now, if that neutron hits another uranium-235 atom, and it hits it in such a way, and now don't think about billiard balls. It's not like breaking it apart. It interacts and makes it unstable and makes it want to break apart naturally. What I'm about to explain is very interesting, but it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. There's a probability that a neutron will interact with another uranium atom and make it break apart as well. So this is not a ballistic thing that's happening. This is not a chemical reaction. This is a nuclear reaction. It's exactly as you said it. It's breaking.
Is the probability of a reaction increased by the density of uranium in near proximity to the destabilized uranium neutron or the jettisoned neutron? It seems like that would be the trick to getting a reaction.
Yes, that's one of the tricks. So the answer is yes.
Ooh.
It is. If you put more uranium-235 atoms around it, then yes, you are more likely to get another mousetrap reaction where you get more neutrons out of that. And that's the chain reaction that, you get the nuclear fission. But there's another thing that can increase the likelihood of the reaction, and that's if you slow down the neutrons. So as the mousetrap breaks apart the atom and those neutrons are flying away from the uranium atom, you can do what's called moderating. You can moderate the neutrons. And the way you do that is you fly those neutrons through something that slows them down. Okay? I'm going to introduce several concepts at the same time, but then we're going to get there.
I'm still tracking.
Okay.
Okay.
When you have slower neutrons,
How much slower are we talking? You said like 25,000 kilometers per second?
it was like 20.
Is them just in free flight?
Ballpark, a fast neutron's like 20,000 kilometers a second. That's stupid fast, man.
20,000.
That's
Okay.
very, very fast, right? That's like a percentage of the speed
Yeah,
of
I mean
light.
it's a meaningful fraction of the speed of light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can get them slower down to like 2 kilometers a second in that ballpark, much, much slower. Those slow neutrons, those are called thermal neutrons. Okay? I don't know why, but they're called thermal neutrons. So if we can take that fast neutron and slow it down to a slow neutron or a thermal neutron, this is the interesting thing. It is then more likely to interact with another uranium atom.
Of course.
Okay.
Right? If I throw a baseball through a room full of helium balloons that are barely buoyant enough to stay afloat. So the room is just a sea of helium balloons that are so close to the exact density of air that they barely rise and fall, just depending on the temperature gradients within the air of that room.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say it's, fairly full, but I have a baseball and my objective is to get it to the other end of that 50-foot room without hitting a balloon. I'm going to throw it hard because even though I'm still likely to hit a balloon, it's less time that the ball is in motion and less opportunity to interact with those balloons as they move about slowly through the path. Whereas if I were able to throw that baseball, assuming I could clear a 50-foot room with that baseball going 10 miles per hour instead of 90 miles per hour, it's far more likely to hit something because all those balloons are moving around. It's just more time and more opportunity for interaction, or at least that is what seems intuitive to me. But this is happening in a different realm of reality than I understand.
There's so many different mental models that you can use to try to understand this. I don't claim to understand it. I just know what happens. I know if you slow down the neutrons, then it is more likely to interact with uranium-235 or plutonium-239. However you have to think about that. The one way I think about it is I think about these U-235 atoms just kind of jiggling out there. They're just kind of like at a dance, And if you just go pew and you just shoot straight through, then it'll just it may or may not interact. But if it's going slower, then I don't know, something in the nucleus might interact better. I mean, I just think, like you, it's around for more time, therefore it's going to interact more.
And theoretically, this is going to keep costs down as well, right? Because you're not trying to get the most active neutrons. You don't want free neutrons. You're trying to reduce the amount of energy expended here to increase the likelihood of interaction with other uranium atoms. So theoretically, that would have a cost-saving benefit in that you are spending less energy on the front end because you don't want to burn that much energy anyway, because you want to create a thermal neutron situation, right?
I didn't quite understand your question, but yeah, I guess I'm not.
It would take less energy to achieve a thermal neutron moving at 1/1000th or 1/10,000th the speed of a free neutron, right?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there are fast neutron breeder reactors, which was what EBR-1 was, and there are thermal neutron reactors, which is what Brown's Ferry is. Those are two different types of reactions.
Okay.
The fast neutron reactor is better for breeding more fuel. So EBR-1, part of the reason why they got to build EBR-1 is because...
Wait, EBR-1 is... that's the other...
The Idaho National Labs,
one.
the first one that came online and powered civilian homes. Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting a pin in a question. I'm trying to understand what we're talking about here. I got a pin in it. Keep going.
Part of the reason why they were allowed to build EBR-1 is because they got fuel from, I'm assuming it was the Army at the time. They got 235 enriched uranium from the Army, and they put uranium-238 on the outside of that reactor. When they did that, those fast neutrons that were kicking off their uranium-235 in the middle, they would hit that U-238 on the outside, and it would turn into plutonium-239. So they were breeding...
Turn into?
Yes, turn into. They were breeding more fuel.
Why are there numbers at the... I'm so sorry. I know I'm bogging you down. Why are there numbers at the end of uranium? Those aren't the atomic numbers. Uranium's... I mean, all that stuff's 80s, 90s, 100s, right? In terms of the periodic table, the periodic number?
Yeah, so uranium-235 is an isotope of uranium.
So it's still whatever number uranium is on the periodic table. And then
it's
the isotope is that tag number you're giving me?
Yeah, I just looked it up so I don't get this wrong. So it's got 92 protons and 143 neutrons.
So 92 is the atomic number.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that what determines an atomic number? How many protons
I think you're
have?
right. I think you're right. I'm so over my head right now. But
okay.
We're both hanging on as best we can here. Yeah.
But then neutrons don't affect atomic number at all. I mean, clearly they don't neutrons don't affect atomic number at all. So then an isotope...
The atomic number of
is
uranium-235
what?
is 92. Yes, you're right. So the atomic number is protons. Yep.
Okay. So then what makes it an isotope?
There's a natural state that it wants to live at. And my understanding is when you change... Oh, gosh. I don't know. Isotope, let me see. I have to look this up. Has 2 primordial isotopes. No idea what that means. I will say this. I was about to go somewhere interesting, and yes, we are bogged down here.
Sorry.
Isotope, a variation of the chemical element that has the same number of protons, but a different number of neutrons in its nucleus. So an isotope is a different number of neutrons? I don't know if that's true. Isotopes are distinct nuclear species of the same chemical element. They have the same atomic number and position in the periodic table, but a different nucleon number, mass numbers, due to different numbers of neutrons in their nuclei. Okay, so it's neutrons. It's not the electrons. I don't know this stuff.
Okay, so atomic number is protons, but then the isotope number is affected by a combined number of everything that's in the nucleus. So that would be protons plus
the neutrons. I'm reading from Wikipedia now.
Number?
I'm reading from Wikipedia. The number of protons within the atom's nucleus is called its atomic number and is equal to the number of electrons in the neutral atom. Each atomic number identifies...
Okay, so that goes back to ion. So if it's not neutral, then it's an ion, but we're assuming it's neutral. So the protons and electrons are going to be even, and neutrons don't affect that. If I'm hearing you right, atomic number is protons, and a neutral element is going to be, it's not an ion, equal number of protons and electrons. An ion would be an imbalance one way or the other. A positive ion would be more protons, a negative ion would be more electrons. And what I'm saying is, as you are explaining this, neutrons do not affect charge in any way. So I think we're on the same page there.
That's my understanding. However, like the difference between U-235 and U-238, it sounds like they're not ions, they're isotopes. So an isotope has a different number of neutrons, I think.
Roger.
I think that's the way it works. So an ion and an isotope
that would make
are
sense
different.
Because if those are being jettisoned in these reactions, it would make sense that that would then change that isotope number. I mean, we're feeling it out. Okay. Well, this is better than I've ever understood how you could have uranium, which just has an atomic number, and then it can have other numbers at the end. So those are isotope numbers. Those are at least in some way related to where they are in their reaction process, having to do with how many neutrons are present. I think that's correct based on what you're saying.
Okay.
Let's assume it is.
Okay.
Speaking of things I don't understand at all, some of you support this podcast at patreon.com. And I'm really, really grateful that you do, even though I do not understand the internal reaction at the elemental level that would cause you to want to do that. I and my family are very, very grateful.
Yeah, I was just remembering, man, this was a very distant memory. Didn't we get mattandestin.com and destinandmatt.com? We did. I just found it.
Wow. Really?
That
what
was
does it do? What does it say?
That's the 50-50. You remember the 50-50?
Vividly.
It's still a thing. I'm going to play the 50-50 right now. Oh, I lost the 50-50. I lost it.
Can I read the instructions for the 50-50?
Yeah,
because the last time I saw this was a long time ago. This is from episode 1 or 2.
Yeah.
This is going on as we're recording this 8 years ago.
Yeah.
The 50-50. You're about to play the 50-50. This is all this webpage says. Here's how to play. 1. Look at the 2 buttons below and choose one in your mind. 2. Click on the button you've chosen. 3. Live with the consequences. If you win, you'll get to see the something wonderful. You will get to see the something wonderful.
It does have a typo, does it? It's had a typo for 8 years.
Whatever, it just lives there. Things happen.
Crap.
You will get to see the something wonderful and will be morally obligated via Blood Oath Covenant to support us on Patreon, link on the right. If you lose, no comma, you'll see something strangely enchanting but deeply disquieting and will be morally obligated via Blood Oath Covenant to support us on Patreon, orange link. You were warned, period. Disclosure. This is a gimmick designed to make groveling for Patreon support more fun. Thank you. Button 1. Button 2. Well, I just chose one of the 2 buttons and I clicked it.
I will tell you this. depending on if you go to mattanddestin.com.
Oh my gosh, I won!
Did you win?
I'm sorry. I know you were saying something important, but I won. I'm the winner. Wow,
Let's
that's
see.
phenomenal. You won. Great job. I can't say the rest of what it says, but people are going to need to figure that out. I like what it says a lot. What do we get? Oh, wow. Look at that. That's from when the internet was fun. That really was a gift.
It was. Yeah, depending on if you go to mattanddestin.com or destinandmatt.com, they're different
I'd recommend
50/50s.
Matt
Did you
and
know that?
Destin. I didn't remember that, but now that you mention it, I do, because I think I remember what the other winner video was. We each picked a winner and loser video.
We
So
did.
Matt and Destin are my picks for winner and loser, and Destin and Matt are your inferior picks for winner
I don't
and
think
loser.
that's true. Hold on, I'm a Destin and Matt. Let's see which one. Gosh, I lost again.
Man, you suck.
These
You're worse
videos.
at this than 50% of players.
All right, well, I guess it's time to close out our extremely professional Patreon
This is
spot
effective.
here.
Yeah, this is going to revolutionize our financial futures. I can feel it. This
There you
this
go.
is the finest spot we've ever recorded.
It
How
is.
could a person, just Destin, put yourself in somebody else's shoes here.
Okay.
How could a person listen to what just happened and not immediately go support this podcast?
Because
I
they
can't
turned
imagine
off
the
the
scenario.
podcast. That's how that could
That's
happen.
that's literally the only way.
Thank you for supporting on Patreon. Also, I'm sorry.
Freaking idiots.
So, where were we?
We were, I don't know. We're trying to figure out how to not to radiate my family
Okay.
when I'm driving down the road next to the nuclear bus.
Okay. So the fast neutrons just fly off of uranium-235. And
Okay.
on a fast reactor, they react inside the core, but they fly off and then they interact with uranium-238 on the outside, and they turn that into plutonium-239. So the interesting thing about a breeder reactor is you can get more fuel out of it than you put into it.
Because you can then use the plutonium-239.
Correct. Which is interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
Does plutonium occur just naturally in the wild, or do we have to make it through that process?
No idea. I don't know.
But uranium does, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uranium is just mineable.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
The interesting thing about this book that Alex sent me is I flip it open and I'm like, man, so how does this work? And so I knew about the fact that there's these cross sections for different atoms, and the likelihood of neutrons interacting with an atom depend on what's called the cross section and the speed of the electrons. Those two things determine if the probability of you getting an interaction. So if we could slow down our neutrons, we can increase the likelihood of reaction. So you can moderate the neutrons by slowing them down in water. So water, the hydrogen bonds inside the water will naturally slow down neutrons as they're flying. Phew, and then they slow down.
Okay.
If they slow down, you get not a fast neutron, but a thermal neutron. And then it increases its likelihood that it's going to interact. So if you had a rod of dry fuel and you somehow had an original, like, first domino that fell, first mousetrap pop, and you get neutrons flying off, a neutron source, and then you can try to start a chain reaction. If you cleverly arranged these fuel rods in water, it could interact differently if there's water present versus when there's not water present, because it would change the speed of the neutrons. Therefore, it would interact with those other uranium atoms differently. Does that make sense?
It does, and here's something embarrassing. I thought that the water that was in the reactor was to cool it down.
It is.
That's what I thought it was meant to do.
It is, which is interesting. It does cool it down. And so this is what's really, really cool about, so all this.
So it's the same water serving two purposes, or are these two different tanks?
It serves three purposes. Yeah, it moderates the neutrons, it cools down the fuel rods, and it also turns to steam, and that's what you use to generate the electricity.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. Yeah, it sure is what you use to generate electricity, isn't it? This is what happens when I get my head too far up the butt of a question. And
It's
yes, I guess the steam would be the third purpose of that water, wouldn't it be?
It's fascinating. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out, and I realized somewhere along the way, I was like, man, this is fascinating. And what I don't understand is how does all this happen inside a reactor core? Because as you start to think about it, you're like, oh, this isn't a 2D problem, a two-dimensional problem. Because when you look at a reactor core map from the top, you're seeing all these control rods and fuel bundles, and you're saying, oh, well, if I move these control rods out of the way, then that'll allow the neutrons to pass between the fuel bundles, and that'll increase my reactivity, and the temperature will go up. And so
Okay.
I'm thinking about all this stuff. And then I was like, but it still doesn't answer my question, because the top of the fuel bundles are going to be exposed. These control rods are things that you insert in the bottom of the reactor.
And do the fuel rods go into the control rods? Is that where they
The
live?
fuel bundles don't move. And you have these fuel... Go ahead.
So we have 177 control rods in the Browns Ferry reactor, right?
I think that's right. Let me go back. 177 control rods and 748 fuel assemblies.
748 fuel assemblies. And that's one rod each, the fuel assembly, or there's a bundle in each assembly?
There's a bundle in each assembly.
How much is in a bundle?
So a bundle is basically it's a how do I describe this? Imagine a bunch of cylindrical pencil erasers stacked in to a metal tube, and those metal tubes are put together inside an assembly, like a square thing. And so let's see, fuel rods consist of blah 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 blah. 64 rods are in a square tube.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of material.
It is. They're big. Yeah.
I mean, these rods are primarily, uranium is the fuel source.
Yep.
With these rods.
Yep.
And how long does this last before they have to swap it all out?
Every couple of years, they move them around in the core.
Oh, so it's like rotating your tires? You don't have to throw them away.
Correct.
As soon as they start to wear, you can just rotate them every 10,000 miles and get more out of them.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I was sitting there thinking about this, and so these control rods are inserted in the bottom of the reactor, and what they do is they're like shielding. They stop the neutrons from going from one fuel bundle to the other.
Oh.
It decreases, it basically shuts off the neutron's ability to shoot across to another bundle, right?
Which would create chaos, because the further out the neutrons go seeking an interaction, the harder it is to predict their behavior and control the energy output.
I'm not going to comment on that because I don't quite understand what you're saying, and words are important when we're talking about nuclear reactors.
Okay.
So, yeah.
My point would be, if you're just trying to see how many times you can get free neutrons to interact with stable uranium to create an interaction with that next uranium atom, if the point is just to get it to happen as much as possible, it would seem like you'd be ahead. It would be more predictable, and you'd be more likely to have interactions if you could just keep those bouncing around in the same tight little area, as opposed to having them freely just bounce all over the place in a great big reactor core. You're going to get more predictable rates of interaction. Yeah, it just seems like it would be more controllable, more predictable, and more efficient if the neutrons are moving freely in a smaller, more contained area, as opposed to freely bouncing between all 177 control rods.
Yeah.
Which I would think would greatly increase the randomization.
Yeah. I think the term bouncing, you said a few things. I understand the heart of what you're saying. You said several things in there that are not correct vocabulary, but I understand what you're trying to say. This is not natural uranium. This is enriched. It is natural, but it's been enriched so that we have more U-235 than 238. So it's not stable.
Okay.
It's unstable by design. We're controlling the instability of it. But anyway, you insert these rods from the bottom, and they're not like cylindrical rods. They look like a plus. They look like a cross. They're called cruciform rods. And so these rods, because we have these square bundles, you can insert these pluses in between 4 of the bundles. Can you see that mentally?
Yes.
Okay.
Man, I'm trying. It shouldn't be surprising that understanding a nuclear reactor without any visuals and just having my buddy who's just learning about this explain it to me over the phone would be hard. Because nuclear things I've heard are hard.
Well, this is what's interesting about the whole thing. So I get this book, and I'm trying to understand the three-dimensional nature of the reactor core.
Right.
And I recognize that there's something there. And I'm like, there's something about the 3D nature of this, and I don't understand it. How can they insert the control rods, which basically kill the neutron flow? I'll call it the neutron flux. How can they insert those things from the bottom? Because we still have the top of the fuel bundles exposed to each other. Like, I don't understand. How does that work? And then I flip the page, and it's right over here. And I found this picture inside this book. It says, flow and heat transfer regimes in vertical two-phase flow. Two-phase flow is gas and liquid flowing together. It's like when you open a Coke, you get bubbles that rise in the liquid.
Hey, I understood that reference. Okay,
The
cool.
gas is flowing
I guess
up,
I get this.
but also the liquid is flowing up. Like, you
Sure.
crack the bottle and all that is flowing out. And so you can imagine an eruption of a bottle. You shake up a bottle and you open it, and you can imagine the eruption of liquid out of a bottle.
Sure.
I'm looking at a drawing here, and it's a long vertical tube, and in the bottom of the drawing, you've got water, and in the top of the drawing, you've got gas. And then you have everything in between, all the way up. This is the moment that everything clicked for me with this book, edited by Henry Fenech. I forget how to say his name. And that is, if you think about the fuel bundles, down at the bottom, there's water there, right? Because you got water in the
Sure.
reactor core.
Sure.
And what does water do to neutrons?
It slows them down dramatically because of the bond between the hydrogen and the oxygen. When that interacts with neutrons, it slows them down.
Yep, it's just the hydrogen bonds. It's not the hydrogen oxygen, just the hydrogen bonds. But yes,
Okay.
it slows them
Okay,
down.
my bad.
And what does slowing down the neutrons do for us?
It makes them more likely to interact with uranium-235.
Correct.
Causing a chain reaction because that will initiate, that uranium will want to expel some of its neutrons as well.
Right. As the water boils and you get gas rising to the top of the core,
All right.
what happens to the fuel bundles at the top of the core? Let's say we have a runaway reaction and something happens. We can't get the fuel rods in. This was always my question. Like, what happens if we can't get the control rods in? Will we have a meltdown? What happens if everything gets too hot inside there and it just boils a lot? What happens to the top? Do we have water at the top of the reactor anymore?
We would have steam.
Yeah, we would have steam, which is not liquid water. So what happens to the neutrons at the top of the reactor?
I would assume they just accelerate and dissipate and go far, far away very quickly.
They seem fast.
Because they're not going to be thermal neutrons. They're going to be fast neutrons up there.
Exactly. And now you have it.
Okay.
So are we going to have a runaway reaction at the top of that thing?
Well, no, because the fast neutrons don't like to interact with the uranium in its basic form. So the likelihood of them encountering uranium or interacting with uranium
Goes down.
becomes less as they accelerate to 20,000 kilometers per second.
Right.
So what do free neutrons do to me when they hit me?
They can hurt you.
Well, I would hate that.
Yeah, I mean, they can affect your biological material. They can change it. Neutrons can be stopped by concrete. Concrete, the specific type of concrete you'd want to use is concrete that's got a lot of water content in it. Because, and why do we want water content in the concrete?
Because the bond between the hydrogen at the elemental level in the concrete would further slow the neutrons, and there's no uranium to interact with in the concrete, so it's going to slow them. They're not going to go bother people and bodies, but they also won't cause any reaction because it's just concrete.
Right. And that's where we're at. That's my understanding. So to protect your family, you would want concrete. If there's a source of neutron radiation, A, that's pretty bad because that means we got like some serious reactions going on. Neutron radiation is going to happen in the core of the reactor. But you do have to worry about alpha, beta, and gamma. And so alpha is going to be it's going to be that thing that looks a lot like a helium atom without the electrons.
Okay.
That's alpha radiation. And then we got beta radiation. That's another particle. But the gamma is what you really got to worry about. The gamma is kicking off of isotopes and stuff. Gamma is what you really want to shield against. And my guess is if they were transporting something in a truck that had some type of gamma ionizing radiation source in there, it's going to be shielded with lead in order to stop it. That's my guess.
Yeah, you would hope. It was big enough. I mean, if these rods are 13.25 feet or 4.07 meters, this vehicle was big enough to move that with shielding in place. I don't think that's probably what it was, but it's kind of fun to imagine.
Yeah, I have no idea. But it's fascinating, isn't it? I don't know if this is what you were wanting out of an episode, but obviously I'm still trying to learn this myself. And I think it's fun. I think it's fun to not know a thing and ask completely stupid sounding questions of these people that work at these plants that know this stuff. A big question that everybody has is, what about nuclear waste? I got to see the nuclear waste. All of the nuclear waste that this plant has produced, I got to see it. And I was like, that's pretty neat.
Wait, they keep it there?
Yeah. The nuclear, yeah. It's interesting.
Just in the break room?
No.
Oh.
That'll be a video. It's fascinating stuff, man. I think it's really interesting. And what I've learned about nuclear power is that we need more of it. There's another thing to...
Well, that continues to be my opinion. But the reason I value this conversation is, one, it was just fun to unpack it. And it was fun to kind of get you out of your automatic comfort zone where the exercise... I mean, usually when we have these conversations, the exercise is entirely, okay, what everyday example could I use to make this make sense to my friend who doesn't know anything about this stuff? And you're very patient and you do a very good job. But the exercise, the challenge is, you know it like the back of your hand. You teach it, you think about it, you think in the categories of these equations, you see these equations in everyday life, and it's become so second nature to you that now you have to step back and try to simplify it again like a beginner. For me, and I love that. I've learned so much from you that way. This one was fun because you don't have the mastery of it. So you were having to do the thing you normally do when you explain things from the realm of physical sciences to me, but also you were having to dig deep and be like, wait, how does that thing work? And it was kind of fun to have to see your brain have to do that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm like so far away from mastery at this. I have talked to some people that have a mastery of it. I spoke to one man who, he was such a big deal in the whole nuclear industry at the time of Fukushima that they flew him to Japan. They're like, hey, something just happened in Japan. We need you on a plane. Go. And he was very patient with me, and he let me ask all these dumb questions, and he kindly answered them. And I remember his answer to one question. I said something about coffee. I said, yeah, what's the deal with coffee? I mean, I know, is it good to drink? He's like, yeah, well, the nature of our work is that this thing works all the time. And a lot of times people work long shifts, and it's important to have some form of stimulant in order to keep people thinking clearly. I remember thinking, what a really fun way of answering that question.
That sounds amazing. I can't wait until I have coffee someday.
Whatever, dude.
I still have that box of all that stuff. I'm really looking forward to trying it. Man, I wish they hadn't canceled that contract. People seem so happy when they drink it. It's going to be great. The other reason that this is interesting to me is because I think nuclear is sort of the black box of knowledge. Everybody's heard of it, and it's like one of those things you can just say and it sounds fancy, like when people talk about technology and made for TV product ads, and they're like, NASA approved. It's a NASA polymer. And I'm like, NASA polymer? That sounds like NASA and the word polymer. It must be good. And it just kind of works on me, even though I don't know what any of that means. I think nuclear is that sort of black box for people where folks have pretty strong opinions about it. And it's kind of scary. And it made the Hulk. And Chernobyl is scary. And there was a TV thing about it. And that show was really good. And it was scary. And it seems like it melts people. And nuclear radiation, in our brains, like normal people like me, it's like, is it bubonic plague but green? Is it contagious? Like if I catch radiation, can I give you radiation? Does radiation get on my shoes like we thought COVID could do for the first couple weeks of that? So you got to like spritz your shoes or something to keep the radiation off. And the difference between radiation and contamination makes perfect sense when you say it, but I don't think most of us think in those categories. But intuitively, I know what happens when I'm sitting in a row at a movie theater and somebody walks past me and crop dusts the entire row. That fart just moves with intensity from the fart origin, and then it dissipates out into the air. I get it. I can visualize it. I can smellify it. You kind of learn principles of dissipation and contamination and clean and unclean, even to use kind of Bible language, like grossness and how the grossness decays over time and can go from being really gross to, okay, now it's gone. We're fine here. But when it comes to nuclear stuff and radiation and where does it go and how does it get there and how does it dissipate, I can't visualize it. I don't have any context for it. So I'm driving along with the family. And like I said, everybody's kind of asleep or zoned out, and it's just me and my thoughts. And I'm going, I have no idea if that's what I just drove by, how this vehicle would work or what is going on in there. And it kind of bothered me that I didn't know. And as a result, couldn't formulate any dad strategy for what to do to protect my family. And I don't tend to like dark spots in my knowledge where I can't formulate a dad strategy for how to protect my family. So that's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt about the nuclear stuff. It's like I get a feeling that it's good, but I don't really know why or how and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm just asking these questions. And I got a really nice note. Someone said, and it's exactly what I was hoping would happen. So the second video in the nuclear power series on Smarter Every Day is about radiation safety and these 4 types of radiation. And somebody said, hey, I'm starting a job at a nuclear plant and I'm sitting in training, and they just pulled up this video so that we could understand it better. And I was like, that's what I was going for. I really wanted that to happen. And it's happening, which is cool. I'm excited about that. So my goal with the series is I want to understand it. I'm not going to say like, hey, nuclear power is great and you should do it unless that seems to be true. And so I'm also going to look at waste and look at all these other things. Like it's a green fuel. It's clean. I mean, in order to talk about a power source, I think it's important to talk about everything involved in that. So cradle to grave, like it takes energy to get the uranium out of the ground. We have mining trucks and we're using diesel engines to get the uranium out of the ground. We go and create this electricity. And then we have to do something with that nuclear waste afterwards. So I think if you think about all of the totality of the energy that goes in versus the energy that comes out versus how dirty do we make the environment when we do that, that's one way to look at it. Likewise, I think when you say, hey, look, I drive an electric car, therefore somehow I'm morally absolved of all ethical dilemmas because I am a, quote, good person because I drive an electric vehicle. I think it's important to think about
electricity comes from nowhere.
Yeah, it's important to think about like, okay, that's great. I would love to tell you that all the electricity comes from solar and wind and water, but it doesn't. And also, I would love to tell you that the lithium that's in that battery just magically happened and we didn't mine it from somewhere and process it. So I think it's important to think about the entire equation. Like, how much energy does it take to make that battery? Toyota has said an interesting thing recently. Toyota's like, yeah, we're just going to make incredibly efficient internal combustion engines. And they're going to be just really, really good for the world. And I was like, wow, that's
great.
That's really interesting. I met a man as a part of this series who has worked in coal plants or diesel plants, whatever it was, I forget. And he's also worked in nuclear power plants. And I said, hey, what do you think about nuclear power? He's like, dude, it is great. I was like, tell me about that. He's like, man, when I would go to the power plant before, it was just dirty. Like, I feel safer at a nuclear plant than I do working at the other plants. I thought that was a really interesting data point. So that coupled with another lady that told me, like, I got to sit in on a control room test where the people that operate the nuclear plant, they're being tested on, hey, a catastrophe just happened. How do you fix this?
Crisis alert.
Yeah, basically. It's called an annunciator. We'll start beeping. Dude, that video is going to be so amazing because I got to go talk to the guy that was quizzing them beforehand. And he's like, yeah, it's going to look like it's doing this, but it's actually doing this. And they have to figure that out. And they're going to try to figure it out this way, but it's not going to work because we've done this. And then when that doesn't work, this isn't going to work. It's like, oh, it's so cool. It's so cool. The thing is, we get to test the nuclear plant operators to understand their level of professionalism and do they know how to handle all these different things that happen. And it's just really, really fun. All that to say, I think it's fascinating. I think nuclear power is very, very interesting. And I'm just going to give it a real hard look and try to understand how it works so that I can determine if it is what I want in my backyard, because it is in my backyard. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I dig it. Well, thank you for bouncing off of my silly primitive question. This is a black box to me. That is something I don't understand. Everything I have is from high school on this. And this is probably the most I've thought about atomic physics and nuclear stuff since, seriously, 10th grade, 11th grade. I don't know, whatever. And you made a bunch of things that didn't make sense before make more sense. So it's a start. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Can I land the plane on the book situation?
Sure.
So this guy sent me this real long, nice letter, told me about all this stuff, said, please sign the book and send it back. And I was like, man, this is so fascinating. I'm going to look up this book and I'm going to get a copy because I need it for the series I'm doing. The only copy I could find was like $700 on eBay.
Oh.
So I called the guy and said, I'm not sending your book back. I was like, I'll send it back one day, but I need it for a while right now. And he's like, okay, that's cool.
It's in the mail. We'll get to it.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you showing interest in all this stuff. And I'm glad your family didn't get radiated.
Well, would we know? I don't know. I think we're still in the window. I wouldn't know yet. So I'll keep you posted.
The dosimetry involved is a whole other thing. So
yeah, I don't know what that means, but I feel fine at this point. No one is reporting any symptoms.
That's great.
Okay. Yeah, seems like that'd be good. Thanks for wishing my family not radiation poisoning.
There you go, man.
That feels like sort of a baseline for friendship, but I'm still going to say thank you.
Yeah. All right, man. I think we're going to get Chinese food tonight, so I got to go pick that up.
That's important. All right, enjoy. See you, pal.